Well, welcome back to this thought for the day for the 26th of May 2020. Today I started to listen to a new podcast called The Confessional by a person who I admire, and I think she does a wonderful job as a Lutheran minister, pushes the boundaries of conventional understandings of what a good Christian may look like or even sound like, and just really cuts through the rubbish in order to get to the real sense of the radical nature of the gospel. Just as Jesus, when he walked this world, cut through the rubbish of the religious hierarchies of his day and the institutional religion, which valued the institution over the actual people it was meant to serve and to help. And as Jesus does that, Nadia is extremely good at doing that as well. But I wanted to focus on the name of the actual podcast, The Confessional. Now, for any Catholics or ex-Catholics amongst us, The Confessional will be quite a usual and familiar thing. You know, in order to receive communion, one would first go and have confession, which we've all seen it in the movies with the box, with the priest on one side, and then through this meshy sort of grate on the other side, you'd have someone confessing their deepest and darkest secrets. In movies, it tends to be something quite gruesome, murder or something of that nature. Obviously, most of us, I hope most of us don't have those sorts of things to confess. However, it's gone out of fashion and favour within the more Protestant churches. It's certainly there within the Anglican Church, of which I'm a part of, and as we are trained, we are encouraged to obviously understand that we may be asked to give confession, to hear confession for someone and then pronounce absolution upon them. This probably happens much more within the more Anglo-Catholic, liberal Catholic ends of the church than it does perhaps the more evangelical or conservative evangelical end. But the real heart is that confession is such a freeing thing. As I listen to Nadia's podcast, you can sort of hear that the people that have come on to bear their soul, really, and to confess to things that to some of us may not seem a big deal, but to them were a real point of shame in their lives, is a tremendous freeing opportunity. And I think that's one of the reasons why Nadia has started this podcast called The Confessional, is to encourage us all into the practice of confession. As a third order Franciscan, it's part of my rule to at least do once or twice a year to have sacramental confession, to meet with my spiritual director or priest or whoever, to have them hear my confession. And there's some really wonderful understandings as to what confession ought to really be. And it's less about I swore this day or all those sorts of small things. Because actually, if you attend to some of the larger things, the small things tend to fall away as well. The things that tend to grieve God most and play on our own consciences and minds most are those things that damage and break our relationships with each other and with God. It's those sorts of things where we know we need to be reconciled to someone, where we've done something to someone that's hurt them deeply, or we are struggling with things like unforgiveness for hurts that have happened to us. and we need God's strength to love those people who we may even class as enemies. It's those sorts of things that when we are able to confess them and free ourselves from the burden of them, then relationships can be restored. There's a reason why confession comes in the Anglican tradition is often called prayers of reconciliation, because it focuses less on those sorts of sins that we like to beat everyone. Oh, look, he's a hypocrite, he's done this. No, it's often classed as a prayers of reconciliation, because actually that's the deep human need. The need to be reconciled with God, with ourselves, and with our neighbour, with other people. So in this time of crisis again, but in every time, I encourage us to perhaps develop again this pattern of confession, of opening ourselves up and being willing to be vulnerable to another person that you can trust will be able to hold that vulnerability and not use it against you. And to perhaps, like myself and many other people who are involved in religious communities, such as Oblates in the Benedictine community, Third Orders like me in the Franciscan community, to engage with the idea of confession and regular confession once more. It is a scary thing. No one likes to bare their soul to another person so deeply and so openly for fear of rejection and for fear of someone seeing who you truly are, the one that you've actually been trying to hide most of your life, which we call our false self, which I've talked about before. So let me encourage you, once you have been to confession and you have confessed your vulnerabilities, your shame to another person, it is a truly freeing experience.